Hello, guys. Welcome back to the United Star. Today, I'm going to be talking about what kind of team the possible 11 United should be taking up after Premier League comes back on the 17th of June. And I'm going to run through the potential 11, considering the other things, such as the number of games that will be there in a week and the workload and what formation we should play. So, I personally think we should go for a 4-3-3 because I really want to see Bruno and Pogba play together in midfield. So let me start off with the goalkeeper. I think David De Gea in goal is a no-brainer because he is still our number one, and I think the break must have done him well because he was a little short on confidence and going away from football for some time, and to recollect his thoughts and to just be away from the game and think about what's been going on. I think it must have done him a good. It must have been good for him, and him coming back fresh, I think will be good for United as well. In my centre back pairing, I'm going to go for Lindelof and Maguire. I think those two have been consistent and they're trying to form some sort of a partnership and it's blossoming nicely. And I want to see how that goes forward. And I think that they pick themselves really because how Maguire has grown into the United shirt and how Lindelof is stepping in. Of course, they have some issues, but I hope that they'll improve on them. But for now, Lindelof and Maguire. In the centre back, of course, we have Eric Bailly as a replacement. He is injured quite often, and he will be important to come into the games as and when possible. So he would be my replacement. Right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I expect him to play all games, even if he has to play 3 games a week or 2 games a week, and then come off. But Aaron Wan-Bissaka is fit, he's young, he's energetic, he's probably the best defensive right back in the Premier League, and he's got everything that we need. So Wan-Bissaka starts at right back, and Luke Shaw, who's also been in great form before the lockdown came in and before all of this happened. Luke Shaw was showing his true potential, and I think him at left back is a great option. So that would be my defense. Bailly, Lindelof in the middle with Maguire, Lindelof in the middle with Wan-Bissaka on the right and Luke Shaw on the left. My midfield three is what I'm excited for most. I'd play Fred as the sitting midfielder. I think he's silenced his critics and he's shown that he owns his place at Man United, and he's really, really grown into the shirt this season, and it's wonderful to see him play. His work rate, his dedication, and his passion for the game. He's running up and down, he's pressing, he pulls out the passes, the long range passes. He breaks the play up for defenders. So I'd like to see Fred playing the defensive midfield role to start with. And then I'd see Pogba on the left. I mean, he's fit now and he's good to go. And he's said he's excited to play with Bruno. He's even considering to stay. So he's on contract right now. So this is his chance to play with Bruno and see how it goes. And to see him play on the left hand side of midfield with Bruno on the right gives us two brilliant attacking outlets and very different, not very different kinds of players, but a lot of different abilities in terms of how Bruno can almost stop the play and guide it, and Pogba can really drive the play and he can pick the ball up from our box and drive to the other box and score wonderful goals and pick out passes. I mean, Paul Pogba is probably the most talented player, as I've said before, in the Premier League. And Bruno Fernandes has been great. He's shown amazing composure and he's shown a lot of leadership quality. And maybe that will help Pogba because when he's playing for France, Kante is sort of the pivot and he's sort of the leader. And out here, maybe Bruno and Fred can take that role up and free Pogba in the midfield. He's never had that at United in the midfield, someone so good in the midfield alongside him. And now that we've got Fred and Bruno, I think it's wonderful. And I think Pogba can really flower and blossom in that situation. One thing that we need to be careful of is that this team is quite attacking now with Bruno and Pogba with Fred sitting. So Pogba will have to do some defensive work, and I think he'd be up for that because he'd have much more of a freer role while going forward. Because even Bruno has a good work rate, Pogba has a great work rate, and Fred also has a decent work rate. And what I'm excited about is that something good that's come of the coronavirus, dare I say, is that Marcus Rashford is fit, and he was our best player before going into his injury period and then the lockdown. He was essentially our best player. So I would like to see a front three with Rashford on the left, Martial up top, and I think Dan James starts on the right because he's a natural. So Rashford, of course, he's been amazing. He's been putting the goals in, assists in, takes some wonderful free kicks, is pretty good from the penalty spot, and also he's got the pace, he's got the dribbling skill, he's got the shooting ability. So I think he makes a perfect player from the left to cut in, and with the support of Pogba in the middle to supply those balls along with Bruno and along with Luke Shaw to make the overlapping runs on the left. I think it will be quite a deadly combination on the left. Martial has also been looking more and more comfortable in the first striker's role. He's getting goals more often, and I think that's really important because Anthony Martial has a lot of quality. His touch, his control, his dribbling skills, they're second to none, I might say, in the Premier League. It's only a consistency that we need from him, but I think he would do well there. And on the right, Dan James, he's got the pace, he's got the creativity. Decision making is a little off, but he's the best option we have. And then, since I said that there might be 3 games in a week, so we need a lot of replacements. So my first 11 would be De Gea, Maguire, Lindelof, Van Bissaka, Luke Shaw, Fred, Pogba, Bruno, Rashford, Martial, and Dan James. And for replacements now, I would have in the important games. I'd like to see this team. What we can do also is they can probably double with a back five maybe at times with Brandon Williams playing left wing back and Luke Shaw playing left centre back, and we can have that happening, and Van Bissaka pushing out as right wing back with Maguire, Luke Shaw, and Lindelof in the centre. Or Bailly can play in the centre and Luke Shaw can move out in the left wing back. In the big games, that might happen. We might see that with Rashford and Martial up top and Bruno, Pogba, Fred in the middle, and the two wing backs playing. That is also a possibility. So that allows us some flexibility to tamper with the team, to make some changes when need be. So if you want to give Dan James a rest and we want to play a defensive sort of formation on the counter with some speed, then we can look at these formations. The other players, of course, Juan Mata can play in the midfield or he can play on the right, depending on the game. Mata is also a great option to have on the right to play those balls in, and it's another creative option along with Pogba and Bruno. And I think that's a luxury to have a technical player like Mata and who has such a brilliant game sense. It's an amazing luxury to have. And then, of course, we have Andres Pereira and Jesse Lingard. I think it makes our job easier now because since we have Bruno and Pogba both ready and fit and willing to play, Pereira and Lingard can play filler roles because they're definitely not first team quality, but at least Pereira and Lingard can do a job while coming off from the bench or playing against a smaller team 1 game in like 5 or something like that, just to give a rest to some of the other players. So Pereira and Lingard, not first team quality, but now they can do what they're fit to do, is which play squad player roles. They're not first team players on a regular basis. So that's another good use of our players. If you want to give Fred some rest, then in the back we obviously have Scott McTominay, who's shown such great potential. He's a wonderful player and he's young and he's a United boy through and through. And that's again a great option to have because he is also coming back from an injury. And if you've been seeing his pictures on his social media, he looks incredibly fit and he's worked on his physique and he's worked on his strength and he's come back. So I think Scott McTominay will put pressure on Fred for that position, and it's a great option to have. And of course, he is also capable of playing in the big games along with Fred if need be. So if we need to play two defensive midfielders, we can do that also. And then of course, and then I don't want to also leave out Nemanja Matic, who is an incredible servant. He's incredibly hardworking. He has a great work ethic, and given he's become slower, but if used smartly, again, he's like Lingard and Pereira. He is first team quality. Now, don't get me wrong, but he's old and he doesn't have the legs anymore. So we need to use him smartly in the important situations where we need to rest Fred and McTominay to prepare for the bigger games, maybe. So Matic can, of course, definitely do a job. So our replacements are also pretty good. We've got right back, we've got Diego Dallo, who can also play on the left. We've got Brandon Williams, and then we've got Lingard and Pereira and Mata to fill in, and then we've got McTominay, Fred, and Matic, and of course Romero in goal can go in always. So I think all in all, United have a good solid 11. I think Bruno and Pogba coming together makes it a solid squad that has creativity, that has guile, and that has a good work rate and has good dribbling abilities. And to see Martial, Pogba, Bruno, and Rashford combine with Fred sitting in the midfield with Van Bissaka and Luke Shaw coming from the wings, I think they'll be very energetic to watch. Also, I think for Martial, we have two great replacements in Mason Greenwood, and just today, I think we're very close to extending the loan deal on Odi Nagalo. Greenwood has been very promising and is given the right amount of playtime by Ole, and his workload has been balanced well. So he could come good. He's been, I think, the highest goal scorer in the Premier League under the age of 21, and Igalo has shown that he can lead an attack, and he's a good stopgap option to have. So all in all, I think the team is looking very good, and we can make a good shout for the top four. And beyond that, I think we are now ready to play some very good football. And I'm really looking forward to all these aspects since the Premier League is coming back now. So this is my possible 11, and please let me know what you think, and please like the video and comment on it and subscribe to the channel. Thank you and see you later.